Greetings. My name is Louise Dente, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Cultural Caravan. On this edition is a special as we're joined again by distinguished professor Dr. Arthur Lewin of Baruch College. Formerly of Baruch College, he has been there for over 44 years teaching African American history and culture. Welcome back.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Okay, so in our first segment, we looked at the history as relates to the Marley movie and the One Love and the history of Jamaica and what were the undercurrents that really pieced together the fabric of that portion of his life. Now we're going to go to another movie, a movie about the role of Napoleon Bonaparte in history. And as you said, maybe just summarizing your audience, when we go to see these movies, what should we be looking for when we go to see movies, particularly about history? What type of analysis do you feel needs to go into that?
Well, in any movie, if you want to really, to begin with, if you really want to understand any movie and not just have it hit you on a superficial level, you have to watch it at least twice. You have to watch it at least twice. And if you when you watch it the second time, you pick up a lot that you missed the first time. Now, and again, what you'll pick up are signs and symbols that the director has inserted in the movie in order to carry along the plot. These are called symbols or subliminal messages. Anyway, dealing specifically with historical movies, anytime you watch a historical movie, you see people, when they make a movie, they can call it historical, but it can stray mightily from the facts. But it's still, if you do not go back to the source and check it, you can take everything seen in the movie as gospel. But the movie is a work of fiction. They cannot be sued for misrepresenting history because it's a movie, you see. So in general, so if you're watching any historical movie, particularly a movie dealing with our history, you have to have your antenna up and take a look at the way we are being presented or being omitted, and have your books, your articles, your research alongside of you, either before or after. You have to put the movie in the context of the historical record. Very often in class, we're talking about something, and a student will raise the hand and say, yes, I saw a movie about that. I saw the movie. But that's not real.
Well, you raised a good point because a lot of times these movies come across as if they're giving you an accurate portrayal of history, whether it be religious history or whether it be social history, political history. It comes off as being the gospel. And unfortunately, like anything, something taught, whether good or bad, people retain it in their brain. And they're now constantly comparing reality versus the fiction that they may have picked up basing on the author's lens or the lens of the producer or the agenda of the producer. So when we look at historical movies like about Napoleon Bonaparte, who was a prominent military, general and political leader at that time in from France, and his work and what he did in history. Let's look at what you saw versus reality, the fiction versus reality, based on your analysis.
Yes. Well, one of the things right off the bat was the movie was truncated. They only showed you a few military engagements, and he engaged in many, many, many battles, many battles. So that was shortened. Another thing that was problematic about the movie was the portrayal of Black people in the movie. You see a couple of Black commanders in the movie. They don't say anything, but you see them. Black commanders, high-ranking officers, perhaps generals. Now, the average person watching that movie may actually, even a Black person watching that movie may come to the conclusion, oh, well, this is being politically correct. They want to show some Black people in the back. But that's not what happened. Black people played a prominent role in the history of France from the beginning right up to the present. Now, if you take a look at the period that the movie is set in, which is the late 18th century, early 19th century, you see, at that time, France it didn't have a binary system of black and white. There was more of a three-part system: black, mixed, well, mixed people and white people. So what happened is these black commanders who were silent in the movie, they were real people. And for example, there was a man called Chevalier de Saint George, who was a prominent French general on the same rank as Napoleon. And when Napoleon put down the riot in Paris, propelled him to power, the authorities had called Chevalier first, but he didn't have time to get there. So he could just as easily have been playing the part that Napoleon played in history. Also, Napoleon's wife is shown as a white woman. That's not correct. It's a fact that she was a woman of color born on the island of Martinique. French women did not go to Martinique. Therefore, everybody born in Martinique had to have a parent who was black, or had to have a mother who was black or of mixed race. So that was, something that was not shown. Also, no movie I've seen yet has yet to make the point of the interconnection and the entwining of the French Revolution, the so-called American Revolution. It's really the U.S. Revolution, but they call it the American Revolution, and the Haitian Revolution. All three revolutions were inspired by a document called The Rights of Man and the Citizen, which was written by Thomas Jefferson in the 1770s when he was visiting Paris, right? And people I'm not even aware of the fact that Jefferson himself was a man of mixed racial background. Anyway, while he was there, he and the French philosopher Montesquieu and other European philosophers drafted this document, Rights of the Man, the Rights of Man and the Citizen, shortened to the Rights of Man. This document was first put into effect in 1776 in the American Revolution, and then it was put into effect in 1789 in the French Revolution. Now, when the Frenchmen who controlled Haiti were celebrating liberty, equality, fraternity, liberty, equality, and fraternity that was being achieved in France, the enslaved Africans in Haiti said, well, why not the same thing for us? And that's what led to the Haitian Revolution. And the Haitian Revolution is what eventually led to the ending of, because of the French Revolution, that's why they stopped bringing enslaved Africans to the Americas. That's why England put out the Navigation Acts and things like that, because they were afraid that if we keep bringing black people here, they're just going to take over the whole place. And it's because of the French Revolution that eventually we had the Civil War and our liberation, our semi-liberation here. But none of us are liberated. They're not liberated in Haiti. We're not liberated here. And the black people in France, even the white people are not liberated. You're not liberated if you're under a regime that suppresses the truth. That's not liberation. And a regime which proclaims documents, all the documents in the French Revolution and the United States Revolution, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, assert that we're all equal, right? But that has not happened yet. That's why they had the Civil War. That's why the Gettysburg Address says 7 years ago, Lincoln was, our fathers put forth on this land. Lincoln was talking about 87 years before, which was the American Revolution. That's why Martin Luther King spoke at the Lincoln Memorial, because you see, Lincoln said we didn't fulfill the promise of our founding documents. That's why we have this slaughter. And then King was saying that's why we got the Civil Rights Movement, because we still didn't finish it.
Exactly. So when we think about that, and you think about when we look at our history, and particularly looking at this point of Napoleon and his role in history and the impact and some of the dastardly things that were done to impact us as a people. And in addition, the inspiration for our brothers and sisters in Haiti to do what they did, which had an impact on the world. We talked earlier off scene about the impact and what Haiti gave to the world. What do we have to thank Haiti for in terms of those brothers and sisters who did what they did in order to free themselves from the yoke of imperialism.
The Haitians defeated the best French army. I mean, Napoleon may not have been there personally, but a huge French army was there, and they were defeated. The United States was helping Napoleon in helping the French army in Haiti. But interestingly enough, when they lost Haiti, which was the gem, Napoleon said, well, if I can't have Haiti, I don't need the rest of what I have in North America. And that led to the Louisiana Purchase. Now, the Louisiana Purchase was not just the state of Louisiana. It's the entire Midwest of the United States from the Gulf to Canada. It doubled the size of the United States. And the United States was fighting tooth and nail to preserve their French rule there. But once they were defeated, they got the country size doubled. And for example, Chicago was founded by a man called Jean-Baptiste Bont de Sable. He was also a French speaker of mixed race who lived in the Louisiana, who lived in the Louisiana Territory. And so we owe a lot to that. Also, Haitian soldiers fought in the crucial battle of Savannah in Georgia in the Revolutionary War, led by a black commander, Henry Christophe. And there's a statue to them right there, at the present time. You see, what happened with the Haitian people, they were given an ultimatum. They were given a dilemma. Either you're going to eat or you're going to be free. It's the same thing they did with Cuba, right? It's the same thing that happened in Venezuela. People can say whatever they want about what's happening now in Cuba, but if it wasn't for the Cuban soldiers fighting and dying in Southern Africa, the whole third of the continent would still be under colonial rule. But that's all forgotten.
So, it's so important, and you think about the role that we have played historically in lots of major movements. And unfortunately, the fact that our story is not fully told, and the fact that only a fraction of the history of our influence has been shown. And right now, as you and I know, across the country, there are elements who are trying to further limit the exposure of true American African, the impact of African contributions to human history. As I say, that you have certain municipalities that feel threatened, that feel that when you talk about some of the uglies of American history in terms of enslavement and the brutality to people other than white, that some people don't want to hear that story. And unfortunately, we are in another battle of trying to keep our history out there and not have it watered down so our children will learn the true history. There are people who are about banning the books, who may not like some of the titles that you shared that you write, who may not like Africa is a continent, not a country. Okay, that book might be a threat to some people who may want, as crazy as it may sound. So we're on a battle right now to say, how do we, and we have to fight several different things, dealing with racism, not having our story fully told. How do we ensure that our children are educated in understanding their true history and not a watered down version, and so forth. So talk to us about that.
You see, thank you. You see, nobody is going to teach us our history except us. We can't turn that over to anybody. These are our children, these are our people. We have to teach them. This is what we're doing right now. You see, the people who feel that they don't want to talk about the bad stuff, you know what they say, right? A guilty conscience needs no accuser. Okay? The reason they don't want to go into these things in the past on the surface is because they might feel embarrassed, but there's a deeper reason. They feel that if the true history of this country is told, the Black people and the Native Americans will rise up against them. But nobody's not thinking about that. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because because we're not those type of people.
Hmm.
Right? We're trying to, you see, look, let's take a look at even beyond the recent things that have just been happening in terms of trying to suppress our history in certain parts of the country. We live in the New York area, fine, New York City, supposed to be an enlightened place. Okay, people don't even know that they spend $25,000 per year per child in the New York City public school system. That's over $25 billion a year. 70% of the black males don't graduate. The overall dropout rate is 40%. The people in New York City are not even aware of how much their tax money is going down a rat hole. It's not functioning correctly. They don't even know that. So anyway, what happened is we have to teach our own history. We have to rediscover our own history. It's up to us. And I remember about 30 years ago, there were many black bookstores, and it was a thriving black book industry, right? That's all but disappeared.
It's funny because I remember the time period when the the African scholar, okay, was at the epitome. When you had Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, um,
Grand
and
Perma.
many others who were on the scene, and that scholarship was highly regarded. People used to crowd this place called what was it called? Um, I forgot the name, but it was in Harlem,
Yeah,
and
yeah, but
Sister
the
Kepha,
bookstore, what's his name? Bookstore. I forget
yeah,
his name. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There was a bookstore, but also there was a Sister Kepha, and there was a place where people used to
Revolution,
congregate.
it was Revolution Books. Her father was
Revolution Books. I know
her,
what you're
her
talking about, but I'm talking
father was
about this church where people used to hear certain great minds uh,
right.
on 145th Street.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, the African scholar was at the highest thing. People used to really be into reading and understanding history. I don't know if it's that popular these days, but certainly that was something which was a big deal in our community. And that's something that we now have to really get to the point where we are teaching our children again history, even if it's not being taught in the schools. There
The
needs to
school
be,
not gonna do it. The school definitely not
yeah,
gonna do it.
well, absolutely not. But we have to do it. We have to educate ourselves again. We got to start cracking open those books, the books you've written and others, to really see what we need to do to educate our children about their history. Because unfortunately, no one else is. And so that's one of the things that I think we have to really look at in terms of looking at these movies to say, and as you said earlier, that go to the movie, look at the movie, but analyze it against what you see with the truth versus the falsehood, and make distinctions. Be a critical thinker. And I think that's one of the things that we need to really endure and to really address. And as we say this, and I'm going to probably have a future conversation about some of the things, certain cartoons that are now being used against us in terms of racism. I don't know if you've heard of a particular cartoon named Good Times, using Good Times backdrop, but it just has these ugly, stereotypical images of our people put into a cartoon that, is really causing a stir across the country. But anyway,
That's just the stuff that people notice. There's a whole lot more. We could talk about it another time. There's a whole lot more that people are not even aware of. I mean, if you want to start, I mean, look, come on. Come on. Mickey Mouse is a minstrel figure. He's a blackface with white white. Oh, look. Okay, that's another topic.
yes, no, you're absolutely right. It's all over the place. And I think if we understand how to know what we're doing and what not to, laugh at ourselves through some of these caricatures that of our culture that have been created, and some of them ingrained in us, in the system of education. Well, again, let's summarize in terms of going back to Napoleon. What would you say the key things were, you the just closing thoughts about that movie as it relates to history and culture of our people?
Yeah, well, what I would say is about the movie is the main thing that I would say about the movie is that I would say about any movie. You know, it's not, you see, you believe, the viewer believes that it's a piece of entertainment. That's only secondary. It's, you see, it's a means of socialization. It's a means of socialization. I can give you some words: socialization, programming, brainwashing, conditioning, education. They're all the same. The media is an extension of the educational system. The misrepresentation of the ancient Egypt in the movies is just a projection of what's in the history books, which is a projection of what happens when you go to the Metropolitan Museum.
Mm.
The exhibit for Egypt is on one side of the building, and African exhibits on the other side of the building. But stupid
Absolutely.
me, I thought Egypt was in Africa.
And that's real. Taking Egypt out of Africa was another strategic way of taking our history away and apportioning it to other people that didn't look like us.
Yeah.
And
So any movie you're going to watch, again, I don't need to cut you. I say any movie you're going to watch, right? Know who made it, know when it was made, and look at it with a real critical eye. You can be entertained by it, but keep your eyes open. Try to, especially historical movies, go back and check and see what the historical record has to say as compared. And the movie Napoleon, like all the other movies, it presents an image that is the white hero, the white champion, right? And the black people and the people of color are basically Tonto with the Lone Ranger. You're just to the side. You're not you know people
exactly,
people talk about, people always talk about they talk about white privilege and white supremacy and all this type of stuff, you know. But look, nobody can look down on you unless you're looking up to them. And
mhm,
this is what the television, the movies, and the educational system promotes.
absolutely. Well, with that said, I want to sincerely thank you, Dr. Lewin, for sharing your insights on historical movies or so-called historical movies. And there's all hidden agendas that have been intertwined into the movie itself, and how to really look at it from another perspective. And certainly we understand the importance of this, not just in movies, but in everyday life. But I want to again thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you join us again on another edition. But until next time, I thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program. And we particularly want to encourage you to tune in and to tell a friend about Cultural Caravan. But until next time, Louise Dente saying thank you.